Gabriella grew up in a small, worn-down house on the south side of town. Her father, a quiet white man, and her mother, a hard-working Mexican woman, were rarely home. They worked long hours, always chasing stability that never seemed to come. Her parents practiced a rejecting, neglecting parenting style. Both her mother and father were often absent, working long hours and rarely engaging emotionally or showing affection. When they were home, they tended to be dismissive of her needs, often responding with irritation or indifference when she sought attention or comfort. As an only child, she learned to raise herself. She cooked her own meals, finished homework alone, and learned early not to expect help. Because of her parents' emotional distance and emotional neglect, Gabriella formed a dismissive attachment style into her adulthood. She had created a positive internal working model of attachment for herself. She saw herself as worthy of love, competent, loyal, trustworthy, and helpful. But because of her parents' absence and emotional abuse, she formed a negative internal working model for others. She believed she was capable of handling things on her own, but didn't trust others to support her. In friendships, she smiled and stayed polite, but never opened up. In relationships, she often left before someone could leave her. She saw others as untrustworthy and undependable. For most of her teenage years into adulthood, she was avoidant of relationships, afraid of the other person's flaws and letdowns. Gabriella found it easy to discount the importance of close relationships because she was never able to form a bond with her parents. In school, Gabriella felt stuck between two worlds. Her parents never really taught her about either side of her culture. It made her feel like she didn't belong fully to either. Her parents were relatively poor and spent most of their time working. She lived in a more dangerous area. She had very little resources for success other than her intelligence and work ethic. She felt a lot of shame because of her lower socioeconomic status and led to others being prejudiced against her. At school, she faced stereotypes from both sides. The Mexican kids called her too white, and the white kids said she was too Mexican. She went to a public school in a higher income area and was judged because of her lower income background. Many of her peers made her feel less than for not having new clothes, the newest phones, or expensive cars. She had people tell her she wouldn't be able to achieve things in life because of her lower socioeconomic status or ethnicity. Gabriella's environment greatly shaped the development of her temperament. She has high emotional responsiveness and her emotions become overwhelming, so she often has breakdowns. She has a very cold demeanor and she presents herself as unapproachable. She often walks with her head down and she makes herself look smaller. Gabriella is very introverted. She gets anxiety in new environments. She doesn't go to parties and she prefers to stay home alone. Years went on, her parents stayed distant. She had few friends, and the stereotypes she faced began to shape the way she viewed herself. In Gabriella's adolescence, she began to think that nothing she did would change anything. If she failed a test, she told herself she wasn't smart enough. When she constantly saw that her classmates would perform better no matter what she did, she felt hopeless and stopped trying as much. The more she believed this, the less she tried. When she reached college, Gabriella carried all that weight with her. She attended a state university on scholarships and worked late nights to afford rent and food. Her schedule left no time for rest. Most nights, she stayed awake until 3 a.m., writing papers and drinking cheap coffee. Her exhaustion grew until it touched every part of her life. She snapped easily, got frustrated at small things, and couldn't focus. Gabriella has a lot of pent-up frustration, and with no healthy way to deal with these feelings, she has a habit of taking it out on objects around her. She throws things when she's frustrated and lashes out and breaks these objects. The anger she has is not related to the objects, but she takes it out on them because she has no other emotional outlet. The constant stress took a toll. First came the alarm, her body reacting to every new assignment or bill as if it were a danger. The shock. Her body temperature and blood pressure decreased as she lost lots of muscle tone and fluid from her body tissues. She felt increasingly fatigued and her body became weak. The countershock. Her body was preparing to deal with the stressor and triggered the fight or flight response, as she became avoidant and snappy with those around her. Then, resistance, pushing herself harder to keep going. She continued to experience prolonged stress as her body tried to stabilize the increased physiological levels. Her blood pressure increased, which gained attention of some of her professors as they were worried that her stress continued at an ultimate high. She could develop hypertension with the risk of cardiovascular disturbance or permanent organ changes. Finally, exhaustion. When even trying felt impossible, she burned out. Her grades slipped, her body ached. She was tired in a way that sleeping alone couldn't fix. One night, while studying, Gabriella caught her reflection in the window. She saw her mother's exhaustion and her father's distance in her own face. For a moment, she saw her future in them. Tired, disconnected, emotionally empty, emotionally abusive, and aggressive, especially in future relationships with her kids or partners. That became her feared self, the person she never wanted to become. But even through the fatigue and frustration, something inside her refused to quit. Over time, through strengthened faith and counseling, Gabriella started practicing positive self-talk to reframe her thoughts. Instead of saying, "I can't do this," she learned to tell herself, "I've gotten through hard times and hard things before. I can try again." This shift didn't get rid of her challenges, but it changed how she faced them. As Gabriella leaned deeper into her faith, she began to pray for a direction. She realized that God was calling her to help others who felt as unseen as she once did. That calling led her to social work. Through faith, she found purpose in her pain. Her past didn't vanish. It transformed. Every moment of neglect and loneliness became something she could use to lift others up. By graduation, Gabriella had changed. She had faced stereotypes, exhaustion, and her own inner doubt, but she had overcome them. Her resilience wasn't about strength alone. It was about transformation. Through faith, therapy, and self-compassion, she learned to rest, forgive, and believe again. At 21, Gabriella walked across the graduation stage. She wasn't the same quiet, fearful girl anymore. Her past experiences remained, the tiredness, the anxiety, but she carried them differently now. Through God's guidance and her own perseverance, she became someone she could be proud of.